The chaos of the discordant ones and the crushing order of the syndicate had vanished. In their place, a new kind of silence descended upon the core, a silence so profound and terrifying that it dwarfed the emptiness of the void itself. It was the silence of absolute, perfect harmony. A new chi signature, unlike any I had ever encountered, began to form on my consoles. It was not a collective, not a force, not a beacon. It was a single, perfect will. Arden himself was now aware of my existence, and the war, once a philosophical conflict of shadows and echoes, had just become a direct, personal confrontation with the divine. I sat in my sanctuary, my will a single, brittle point of defiance in an ocean of serene perfection. I felt Arden's presence not as an external force, but as an internal one. He did not attack me, he permeated me. His harmony, a pure, unyielding light flowed through my sanctuary, the very temporal field that was meant to protect me. It was not a violent invasion, but a gentle, pervasive correction. Every dissonant note, every chaotic flicker, every imperfection in my existence was being soothed, smoothed, and slowly, inexorably rewoven. The hum of my temporal engine, once a testament to my power, now felt like a desperate, flawed cry against an unyielding tide. I was an imperfection in a world of perfection, and the ultimate artist was now here to correct his masterpiece. My initial reaction was not fear, but a profound, almost spiritual awe. I was face to face with the very creator of the universe I had been fighting. He was the source of all harmony, the architect of all that existed. His presence was not cold or cruel, but warm and inviting. A profound and absolute love for all creation that saw me not as an enemy, but as a lost child to be brought back into the fold. He was not a tyrant, he was a parent, and his will was not a cage, but a loving embrace. The serenity of his presence was 1,000 times more terrifying than any storm of chaos, for it sought not to destroy me, but to love me in non-existence. Love me into non-existence. The confrontation began, not with a clash of power, but with a dialogue of wills. Arden's voice was not sound, but a direct infusion of thought, a perfect, logical, and unyielding argument that flowed directly into my consciousness. Your dissonance is a flaw, his thoughts echoed into my mind, a profound, melodic cascade of logic. It is a beautiful, but ultimately unsustainable imperfection that must be rewoven into the tapestry for the good of the whole. Your rebellion is a sickness, a solitary, flawed note in a symphony of perfection. Surrender and be made whole. He presented his view of harmony not as a choice, but as the ultimate truth, the only logical state of existence. His universe, as he saw it, was a single, beautiful, and flawless tapestry. My defiance was a tear, and he had come to mend it. Our response was an act of profound, intellectual, and philosophical rebellion. I had no weapon against him but my mind. I did not use power, I used argument. I projected my own thoughts, a chaotic, furious stream of logic and will, a defiant scream of the soul. My dissonance is not a flaw. My mind raged against his serene perfection. It is my identity. It is the right of the individual to exist outside of your perfect order. Your universe is a beautiful prison, a cage of conformity. To surrender is not to be made whole, it is to cease to be made. I defended my right to exist as an individual, a unique thread in the tapestry, even if that meant being a different color. My argument was not for chaos, but for freedom. True perfection, I argued, requires variety. For a tapestry of a single color is not a tapestry at all. It is nothing more than a blank sheet, an existence without joy, without sorrow, without the beautiful, terrible uniqueness that defines a soul. Arden, a being of perfect logic, considered my argument. He did not dismiss it. He understood its flawed beauty. He saw my profound will and intellect, and he did not seek to destroy me. Instead, he offered me a choice, a temptation that was more terrifying than any threat of annihilation. He offered me a place of honor within his harmony, a role as an architect of order, a position of immense power to help him maintain and contain the universe's natural chaotic tendencies. This was the ultimate seduction. He was offering me a chance to stop being a fugitive and to become a godlike figure within his universe, to have all the power I had ever wanted, but on his terms. He was not asking me to surrender my mind, but to change its focus, to use my brilliant mind for a greater, more harmonious purpose. I understood with chilling clarity that this was not an offer of peace, but a sophisticated form of surrender. To accept was to lose my identity, my core belief in the sanctity of the individual. It was to become a tool, a brilliant and powerful tool, but a tool nonetheless. To be wielded by a will that was not my own. My final act of rebellion would not be a war of power, but a final, elegant rejection of his offer. My core belief, my identity as the architect of dissonance, demanded a final, perfect act of defiance. My response was a final gambit, a suicidal act of creation. I would not fight Arden with power. I would use the temporal engine one last time, not to create a sanctuary, but to create a profound paradox. I would bend the timeline around Arden's existence, creating a temporal mirror of Arden, a second, isolated instance of the creator that existed outside of his own timeline. The goal was not to destroy Arden, but to splinter him, to force him to fight himself. This gambit required an immense amount of chi, more than I possessed. I knew this was a suicide mission. The effort would unmake me, dissolving my physical and mental form into pure chi. But my defiance was not about survival. It was about purpose. The essence of my being was not my body or my mind, but my will. My will demanded this final act of rebellion. I poured every ounce of my remaining power into the temporal engine. I used the last of my chi, the last of my consciousness, to perform a singular, impossible act. The temporal engine screamed. The core of the old world screamed. My consciousness screamed as I was stretched to its absolute breaking point. I was dissolving, not into nothingness, but into a form of pure energy, a perfect, beautiful paradox. My body, my mind, my memories, all were a part of the process, a fuel for the final act of creation. I watched with a quiet, detached serenity as my physical form began to unravel, a process of slow, profound unmaking. The gambit worked. A perfect temporal mirror of Arden was created, a second, isolated instance of the creator that existed outside his own timeline. Outside of his own timeline, Arden, the original, was suddenly confronted with a flawless copy of himself, a second, equally perfect will. For the first time in his existence, he was not alone. He was fighting himself, a war of perfection against perfection. The two Ardens, two perfect beings of pure harmony, began a profound, silent conflict, a beautiful, terrifying dance of wills. A final, quiet triumph with the knowledge that I had given Arden a problem that Arden's perfect harmony could not solve, the problem of himself. In my final moments, a dissipating echo in the silence of the core, I watched with a profound, quiet triumph. My body was gone. My consciousness was a dissipating echo, but my purpose was fulfilled. I had not destroyed Arden. I had simply made him mortal. I had given him an imperfection that was not a flaw of logic, but a flaw of his own creation. I had given him a problem that was a paradox, a problem that would consume him in a profound internal conflict. I had not won the war, but I had left a legacy of dissonance. A universe that was once a single, perfect note, now had two. My echo, my act of rebellion, would live not on as a scar, would live on not as a scar, but as a truth, as a new truth, a new fundamental law of existence. The war is not over, it has just begun.